This is my M1 Pro MacBook Pro, and I absolutely love this thing. It has amazing performance, great battery life, a beautiful screen, and it's honestly been the absolute perfect laptop for me doing my professional photo and video work. However, I've run into a little bit of an issue recently where I've kind of gotten tired of using this computer for more of my day-to-day tasks. For example, I'm a college student and I have homework and files I need to save, and I didn't really want to take up the storage on my professional computer to save college-related files. And I also kind of didn't like how this computer is kind of big and heavy and a little bit more thick and chunky, and it's not as fun to carry around between classes. And also, it's just totally overkill for what I need for schoolwork as well as simple day-to-day work like watching YouTube or surfing Amazon. It's just overkill for what I needed. So I made a very strange decision recently, and I bought what is widely regarded as the worst MacBook ever made. And that's this, the 2017 13-inch MacBook Pro. And to be honest, after using this thing for about a week, I kind of love it. Let me tell you why. Let's start by going over what I ended up purchasing. This is a 2017 13-inch function key MacBook Pro. So back in 2016 and 2017, there were sort of two tiers of the 13-inch MacBook Pro. There was the higher-end touch bar models and then the cheaper function key models, and that's what I have. And basically, the main difference between the two was that on the touch bar MacBook Pros, you got two additional Thunderbolt ports, you got slightly faster CPUs, an extra cooling fan, and most notably, the touch bar, which was a little screen that took the place of your function keys. So this is not that model. This was the base model that had the slightly slower processors, less ports, and the traditional function keys. And these 2016 and 2017 13-inch MacBook Pro models are widely regarded as the most hated MacBooks of all time. So I'm going to go over why these computers are hated so much, but why I actually like mine, and I think they present an amazing value for someone out there looking for a good budget computer. Let's get into this. Let's start by just getting the bad things out of the way. There are, I think, four major reasons why this computer was hated so much. The first problem was the ports. You see, back in 2016, Apple switched all of the MacBook Pros to having USB-C Thunderbolt 3 ports. And this was a radical idea that was not received well at the time. See, back at that time, people still regularly used USB-A and HDMI accessories, and this introduced the world to these USB-C dongles. And this was such a big deal that popular phrases were invented because of this. Things like the dongle life or dongle book pro. Like, this was such a cultural phenomenon that people had to use dongles that basically everyone was talking about it. And I think back in 2016, this was not a smart decision. However, it's 2025 now, and honestly, almost all of my accessories, from my hard drives to my monitor to basically every single device I have, has moved over to USB-C, and suddenly the port selection doesn't seem that bad anymore. Now, yes, I do still wish it had additional ports like an SD card reader or an HDMI port, but at the same time, most of the things I use on a day-to-day basis are USB-C, and I honestly don't care that much about having additional ports nearly as much as I would have 10 years ago. So when looking at this computer in today's world, honestly, I don't think the port selection is that bad. I'd much rather have a computer that has USB-C ports than have a computer that only has USB-A and HDMI, because most of the things I use in 2025 are USB-C, and this is honestly aged pretty well considering that it was so hated back when it came out. The second reason that this computer was hated so much was because of its thermal design. You see, this was back in an era when Apple was really focused on making all their devices as thin and light as possible. And that led to some really beautiful designs, but also led to some serious compromises. And in this era of MacBook Pros, that compromise was its ability to handle its thermals. You see, these computers often ran really hot and had to really ramp up the fans and thermal throttled and didn't pull off as good of performance because of its thermal limitations. And I've definitely noticed this. I mean, even if you're doing something simple like using Photoshop or have a bunch of Chrome tabs open, this thing will get toasty on your lap and that fan will really start ramping up. And the fan isn't the most pleasing sound either. You see on my newer MacBook Pro, the fans kind of have a low whooshing sound to kind of blend in with the background, whereas this has a higher pitch, more tinny, more aggressive fan sound that isn't too loud, but isn't the most appealing thing. So you definitely have to be careful with this thing. And if you do anything even remotely intensive on it, you're definitely going to have some heat, some fans running. So keep that in mind if you do get one of these, that it's not going to be a super quiet, super cool to the touch device. It is going to get pretty warm. The third reason that this computer is hated so much is because of its performance. This computer has dual-core Intel i5 processors, which were pretty low-end at the time and are especially dated and low performance today. Even when this came out, most computers at its price point had quad-core processors, and this computer actually performs worse than the vast majority of smartphones these days. And that's fine if you just want to use this computer for school, for word processing, for surfing the web. But if you want to do anything intensive on this, it's going to struggle. It's not going to do video editing well. It's not going to do high levels of photo editing well. It's going to be slow. It's going to struggle. It's not going to do great at performance tasks. And I think that that was kind of a misconception of the MacBook Pros of the day. You see, it has that Pro name, and you'd think that this would be a professional laptop, but I feel like it much more falls in line with an Ultrabook. It much more falls in line with a thin and light laptop that's more supposed to be used for day-to-day things than to be used for professional projects. And if you wanted to do something more professional, you had to step up to the 15-inch MacBook Pros at the time that had better processors and better graphics. So this definitely is not a pro working laptop, but it does have enough performance to survive running a good operating system, running Google Chrome or Safari. Those things it will do just fine. It's just not going to be able to handle basically anything intensive. The fourth and probably biggest reason that this computer was so hated, though, was the keyboard. This has Apple's infamous butterfly keyboard, which is probably the most hated thing that Apple has done in as long as I can remember. People hate the butterfly keyboard. But I have a confession to make. I kind of like the butterfly keyboard. Now, before you attack me in the comments for liking the butterfly keyboard, let me specify something. This is not a good keyboard because it's unreliable. This keyboard is known to fail. Keys are known to stick. It's known to have issues. And for that reason, it's not a good keyboard. You don't want a keyboard that might fail on you and might not work over time, and the smallest crumbs can make the whole thing fall apart. That's not a good keyboard design, and it's a good thing that Apple ditched this a few years later. And there are also a lot of people out there who don't like the feel of the butterfly keyboard, but I actually really enjoy typing on it. I love the short travel, and the keys feel really clicky and really tactile, and I actually really enjoy using it. Again, not a good keyboard. You're going to have to take a risk if you buy one of these computers that your keyboard might fail. That's always something that's going to be looming in the back of your mind if you have one of these computers. But for me, I'm willing to take the risk because mine's working. I've known a lot of people who have had butterfly keyboards that have not failed on them. But there's also a lot of people who have had butterfly keyboards that have failed. So again, controversial opinion, I enjoy typing on the butterfly keyboard. But for most people, I would say you really have to consider, are you willing to take the risk of this keyboard potentially failing in the future? And that might change your mind on whether or not you want to buy this computer. And you might end up wanting to buy something like a 2015 MacBook Pro that doesn't have the butterfly keyboard, so you don't have to worry about reliability issues with the keyboard like you do on this computer. Okay, we've got the bad things out of the way, so let's jump into what I actually think this computer does really well. And the first thing is the design. Now, I already told you that when it comes to its performance design, when it comes to its cooling and thermal management, it isn't very well designed. But if we ignore those things and just look at the computer, I think it is a beautiful design. It's small, it's light, it's thin, and I think it's the perfect size for carrying around with you as a just portable Ultrabook-like computer. It's lightweight, and it just is honestly a more fun experience design-wise to use than even my 2021 M1 Pro MacBook Pro. I think that this just is a beautiful looking computer, and it does have some dated things about it. For example, the bezels are a little big for 2025, but if you look over those things, I think it's just an amazing designed computer. This computer makes you look like you spent a lot more money on it than you actually did, because we'll get into this later, but these things have gotten really cheap. Another great thing about this computer is its screen. This screen honestly holds up really well even in 2025. It has Apple's high quality Retina display. Now, it's not mini LED like the new MacBook Pros are, but it still has amazing color. It has 500 nits of peak brightness, has P3 wide color gamut, and it honestly is still a beautiful screen even today, and is great if you want to get accurate colors and good brightness if you're outside. It still holds up really well to this day. It's a great screen, and it really makes this feel newer than it is. You also have a huge and amazing trackpad, really good speakers, and overall, it's just, I think, a good package that I think is really functional. And that's the reason why I decided to get something like this 2017 MacBook Pro over, say, a 2015. Now, a 2015 would give you the more reliable keyboard, probably some slightly better cooling. The performance is not much far behind. However, I just love how small and light this is. I love the more modern design, the bigger touchpad. And overall, I just love the design and the overall feel of this computer. And it's great to throw in a bag. It's lightweight, and it's great for a carry-on with you, college, using the internet computer, and it's much smaller and lighter and more easy to carry around than my M1 Pro MacBook Pro, which I really appreciate having. But probably the most important thing about this computer is the price. You can find these as low as like $150 used in pretty good condition. And that's a really cheap price for how beautiful this computer is. If you're looking for a computer you can push to the limits with professional tasks, don't get this computer. But if you want a computer that does great at simple surfing the web, Word documents, and you want something that looks pretty, that's lightweight, easy to carry around, and is just a beautiful computer to have for $150, man, is this a good value. It's a great computer to use, and I honestly have been using this more this past week than I've been using my M1 Pro MacBook Pro. Of course, that computer has better performance, a better screen, and isn't better in basically every other way, but this is small, it's light, it's easy to carry around, and for that reason, I love using this computer. So there are a lot of things to love about this computer, but I'm about to put this to the ultimate test because I'm going to edit this video you're watching right now on this computer and see if it can even handle doing video editing. So I will come back after I've edited this video up to this point and tell you what the experience was like, and also tell you my final thoughts on this computer. See you in a minute.
A few moments later.
Oh boy, that did not go as planned. I opened up this video into DaVinci Resolve on this computer. I started in 4K and it was a little choppy, and that's okay because I was expecting that. This is an old computer. I didn't think it was going to do very well at 4K footage. But I changed its timeline to 1080p, and then it started playing back smoothly, and I got excited like, oh, maybe this is going to work if I do this video in 1080p. And then I started color grading it, and it fell apart. It couldn't replay. It was so choppy, so slow. It was basically completely unusable, and I gave up after just a couple of minutes of trying to work with this footage. It was just so difficult to work with, and this could not handle it whatsoever. And so I knew, okay, this is not a viable option for video editing, but I was curious, what does an export look like? So I took a 5-minute 4K 10-bit video clip from my Panasonic S5 II, and I put it into this computer as well as my M1 Pro, MacBook Pro, and used the exact same clip and color graded them both the exact same way just to get a reference. And of course, I knew that my M1 Pro MacBook Pro would do way better at this task because it's a much newer, much more powerful computer, and I knew it was going to do, of course, a lot faster than this computer. But I did not realize quite how much. So that 5-minute 4K clip on my M1 Pro MacBook Pro exported in 1 minute and 50 seconds, which is a great fast time, and it just did an amazing job. As always, that computer is great and exports really quickly. So how long do you think it took to export on this computer? Maybe 10 minutes? 20, 30 minutes maybe? No. It took 53 minutes and 19 seconds to export the same clip.
Ooh.
1 minute and 50 seconds on my M1 Pro MacBook Pro, 53 minutes on this computer. So basically that just answers my question. You shouldn't edit video on this thing. You shouldn't do anything professional on this thing. It's slow. It's not a fast computer whatsoever. But that being said, the other things I said about it still stand. For surfing the web, word processing, I still think that this is a great option at the $150 price tag. Just don't expect to do anything like video editing on it. I really hope you enjoyed my in-depth look at this 2017 MacBook Pro, and I hope it inspired you to look into some of these older and cheaper MacBooks and how they actually can still be usable for a lot of basic things in 2025. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you all later.